Of Kimberly Ellis. I was with Tucker for many years in various admin roles, starting back in like 2011, I think is when I started there. And then in 2018, had a baby and decided to go out on my own, start my own company, marketing company. So I've been doing that ever since. We primarily focus on social media marketing, social media management, and consulting for small to mid-sized businesses who need a little help in that area. So I just kind of support Tucker marketing in areas that I can, one of those being these monthly workshops. So we typically do these the second Wednesday of every month. It was a little different because there was some spring break stuff we wanted to avoid this month. So just keep an eye out for those emails. We always send out the specific date and time that we'll be doing them, but we've been doing them Wednesday mornings. Various topics. Sometimes there'll be a repeated topic. So if you miss one, make sure to keep an eye out for when we do it again. Some of those being like reels, Instagram stories, strategy in general from a real estate perspective, things like that. So this morning is a good point to jump in with us because, like I said, it's going to be hitting a little bit of a lot of topics. So I will get rolling here. I always like to start with this kind of introduction to answer the question, why social media? Why should you even be spending your time with this, messing with it? For those of you that don't love it, it can be time consuming. So why do we need to do it? It's one single piece of your overall marketing strategy. So I always tell people you should not be putting all your eggs in this one social media basket, but it is a very important piece of everything that you're doing overall to market yourself as an agent, as well as market your clients' properties and things like that. So it gives you the opportunity to be consistent and cohesive in creating your brand as a whole. So we want people to look at your content, look at your email that comes from you, anything visually that they see with your name on it. We want them to recognize it before they even see the name part. That's where the consistency and the cohesiveness comes into play. So the marketing platforms that we use are free. Now, there is an asterisk there because, of course, you can do paid ads. You can pay someone like me to help you with it or to manage your socials. But for the most part, access to these platforms is free to create organic content. So it's kind of like, why not, right? Other than your time spent put into it, it's not a large investment and you can see a great return on it if you put that consistent effort in. On Meta alone, which is just Facebook, Instagram, Threads, they have over 3 billion users. So just to give you a mental picture of how many people you can reach, if your platforms are kind of new and you don't have a ton of followers, let's say you get 100 eyes on a post, it doesn't seem like a ton, and maybe you didn't go viral, but think about 100 new people seeing your content, getting your mailers in the mail, getting an email from you, something like that. Like 100 people is a decent number when you think about it that way, that you're having the opportunity to connect with. And I always tell people, look at it like your virtual network. It's just an opportunity to network without being face to face necessarily and find a way. Our main goal is usually to find ways to set ourselves apart on those platforms because yes, we have all these users. Some of those are our quote competition in terms of other business owners, other agents specifically are also creating content. So we have to find ways to stand out from the crowd. Okay, so some questions that we received, and this one was a big one. There's a common theme on this one and the next one. And they're very loaded questions, so I have to be kind of strategic with my answers, but I do have a solid game plan for you to move forward with. This one in particular, how often should I be posting? So obviously, the first thing I want you to think of first, there's some important factors to think of here. What's sustainable for you to be consistent? So I tell people this a lot. If that for you starting out is once a week, I would prefer that you continuously post once a week and stick to that versus diving into posting 3 to 4 times a week, getting burnt out in a month or two, and then going dark for 6 months and then starting over. Because you've basically at that point wasted your time on that initial first 2 months. It's like starting from scratch when you go dark for 6 months. So the point is to be consistent. I always say that your social media accounts, your social media profiles that people can view are like a website that's being constantly updated. So someone can go to your website, find out things about you, and take a look around, but they have no idea how recently that website was updated or created or what you're actively doing. Social media gives them a peek into the world of what you do on a day-to-day basis, kind of your behind the scenes. It doesn't mean you have to get overly personal, but it takes them into your world a little bit. So that's why I say consistency is more important because if I go to a real estate agent's page and they haven't posted since 2003, I'm questioning if they're even actively in the business. Now, they may very well be, and they just don't have a lot of time. I get it to post or stay consistent, but that is the point of me saying if it is just once a week, that is better than you getting discouraged and giving up entirely. Now, what we do for clients to see actual growth in, say, like a 6 month period is 3 to 4 feed posts per week. Three is kind of that sweet spot for realtors, really, so that you are noticing more volume as far as views and reach, and your engagement rate is higher, and your follower count is at least somewhat steadily growing. It's not going to skyrocket without some other factors in play, but you will notice growth with those 3 to 4 posts per week. And then if you're on Instagram, if you can show up Monday through Thursday daily in Instagram stories, even if it's once a day, you'll notice a huge difference. We just did an entire workshop on Instagram stories. So and if you missed that, we'll probably replay that topic in several months because it's so valuable for making those conversions to get people to talk to you in your direct messages, that type of thing. It's kind of a low pressure way to get in front of people easily. They disappear after 24 hours, so you can just post what you're doing, post what you're up to. Doesn't have to be perfectly curated, and you can connect with a lot of people that way. So always focus on quality over quantity. So again, what I've mentioned there, if 3 to 4 posts means that you're not putting out good content, then scale back to what's sustainable for you. Summarize. One post a week is good enough to just stay relevant. 3 to 4 is that sweet spot where we see growth. And typically we just post during the week because weekends have lower engagement across the board for businesses. People are living their lives, doing their own things, not scrolling as much. So keep that in mind. Plan ahead and batch your content. If that 3 to 4 number sounds outrageous to you, start planning a little bit more in advance and it won't feel like such a hurdle. And once you get rolling and in a rhythm, you can repurpose. You don't have to create a new piece of content every day for the rest of your working life. Okay, you can go back to something you posted this time last year or 3 months ago, and there will be people who either didn't see it the first time or need to hear the message again. So you can reuse content that you've already created, and you choose that by looking at your insights, seeing what worked well and what messages resonated with people and recreating that, or just simply reposting it. Okay, and kind of tied in with that same question is what is the best time to post on social media? Again, very loaded question. It's going to vary by person. It varies by industry, but it comes down to audience behavior. I mean, that is what we're doing in general with marketing overall. And social media marketing is studying our audience, our target audience's behavior, and when they're online to see the content that we're spending time creating. Obviously, I don't want you posting in the middle of the night. It might work for you to post at 10 p.m. because that's when you have time to finally put something together and put it up, but you're not going to see the most return on that. It just doesn't make sense. Whereas you could batch your content late at night and then schedule it for the next few days during more appropriate waking hours. So think about that standard behavior of what your ideal person is up to. So are they waking up and first thing in the morning scrolling their phone for a little bit before they start their day? Do they spend time around? Do they get like a lunch break where that's their time to just kind of dissociate with their phone and scroll for a little bit, or is it late in the evening? Those are kind of the three time of days that I tell people to experiment with. And days of the week can vary. So again, think about what people are doing early in the week versus on a Friday. Friday afternoon is not a time that we post. We typically don't post at all on Fridays in general for our clients because it's kind of lumped in with the weekend. People don't want to be sold to. There's exceptions to that rule if there's a special event going on or a holiday or something that people will relate to well. But for the most part, we try to stick to Monday through Thursday between 9 and 6 p.m. for posting times. There is a way to go into your insights and track when most of your audience is online. So, in particular, Instagram has a good insight section for this, and we kind of use that as a basis for all the platforms. So if you go to your Instagram analytics, which you need to have a business page for, by the way, so make sure you have a business profile set up for your real estate Instagram. You'll be able to look at your analytics, specifically followers is its own section. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of that follower page, it maps out a bar graph for you by day of the week, what time of day most people are on. And you'll typically notice that like 12 to 6 p.m., 12 to 3 p.m. on most accounts is when your graph is the highest. So that is just a starting point. Think if your highest point is 12 p.m. on a Tuesday, I recommend posting 11:15, 11:30, putting your post up, sharing it to your stories, spending some time engaging with people that follow you, people that you want to connect with, other local business owners, whoever your target audience might be, so that you kind of give some engagement in order to then get some engagement back on the content that you post. So you will see a vast difference in return on your time spent with that, creating that content, if you put a little bit more into it versus just 10, 11 p.m. at night, throwing it up and going to bed. You can probably imagine which one's going to work a little bit better. So always experiment with this too. If you find that mornings are best, that, post once Monday at 9 a.m. and then the following week, try a Monday at 1 p.m. It's never going to be a perfect science, but you'll notice trends, at least to kind of give you a starting point. Okay, so the next question was, how do I create reels and video content that works? If you want specifics on like how to create the actual reel, we have a full workshop on that. That was actually last month's workshop. It was just focusing on reels. That's a hot topic, so I am quite sure we will do it again. Probably do TikTok at some point too. So that workshop gets into more of those details of how to physically step by step create and post your reel. But I wanted to give some tips to specifically answer this piece of the question, content that works versus, again, just throwing up some video and hoping for the best. Or how do you get in the routine of it, really, is another, good question to answer. So for realtors, you are constantly in your car, you're driving to various appointments, you're meeting with different people. One big hurdle you have to jump here is getting in the habit of filming everything, viewing everything as potential content. Even if you don't have the idea fully formed, know what you're going to do with it exactly, it's better to just get your phone out, film a couple second clip, turn your, if you have an iPhone, turn it on to live for photos. So if you take a photo, you could end up using that for, I think it's like 2 seconds that it can turn into a little video. You can put those together to make a longer clip. So those are just little hacks to kind of get your content library built up as far as video goes. So batch film during property prep. Go with your stager when they're preparing the house for listing. Go to the listing photo appointment to get some behind the scenes footage, especially on your listings, because that's another way for you to create marketing content to stand out, marketing content specifically for those properties, for those listing clients that you're working with. It could be an open house setup that you're doing. Use your open house time to film video if you are, have a little 10-15 minute window before it officially starts after you've set up. Use that to do some talk to the camera reels because you are in the mindset, you're already at work. So use that time efficiently to batch some of this content. Again, you don't have to post it right then. You don't have to scramble to create, post everything in that moment that you're filming it. It's better to just start filming and then sit down and work on the actual creation part later on. So film short clip. These are just some ideas of little short B-roll clips that you could film that it doesn't matter what the audio in the background is because you can just put music over it for reels or a voiceover, what have you. So those are some general ideas. And then always, always, always make sure when you're filming for Reels, TikToks to film vertically. It used to be for years everything we wanted horizontally. But that portrait mode is what we want you to film in now. And make sure if you're doing video of yourself with you on the camera, leave a little bit of headroom that gives you space to add text later on screen or captions. If you're speaking, you always need to be adding closed captions to that. Instagram has auto captions you can add to them that you can edit if they're not right, but you're not having to type out every word. So you need to be using them because the statistic is in the 90th percentile people use, or I'm sorry, scroll with sound off. So we absolutely, even on voiceover, funny reels have to be using closed captions. So give yourself a little bit of space, step back a little bit when you're filming to leave room for all that. And then when you're thinking about reels, the goal with reels in general is obviously engagement. That leads to more reach overall. So the more people that look at your content and think this provokes me to act in some way, whether that's liking it, leaving a comment, sharing it with their friend, saving it to come back to later if it's valuable information. Those are the actions that we're wanting people to take when they view our content. So before you create the content you've batched, but before you go to actually hit post, think about your messaging. Would someone save this or send this to a friend? Is it relatable? You want to make it more about your audience. I use this line a lot, but your content has really nothing to do with you. It's not about you. We don't want it to come from a place of ego. We want it to come from a place of there's someone out there who needs my expertise, who needs to hear this message I have to say, who needs the experience that I've experienced, that I've gone through to be able to help them through this next phase of life. What is that message that they need to hear? You have so many things you could come up with just from a single deal, various hurdles that you've overcome for your clients and how that perfectly sets you up to work with the next person. So you want your hooks on your reels to be very specific and very directed towards that target audience. So here's a brief example. As a realtor in Carmel, Indiana, I would never do this one thing when buying a home. So it shares why you're qualified to be making this statement. You're a realtor in XYZ. We get specific there because then people know immediately if they are in your area or not, where you're coming from. And then you would never do this one thing when buying a home. Again, you're coming from an area of expertise. You've done this yourself. You've helped tons of people do it. So this type of hook versus just saying three things to do before you buy a home or three things you do when buying a home. Which one do you think would make people stop a little bit faster to read? Because we're kind of sick of hearing three tips for this, five home maintenance items to do for this. Like, we want to know specifically, what would you do as an expert in your field? And narrow it down to one thing. You could put more things in the caption, but narrow it down to one thing so that it's easily digestible content. With Reels, you want it to be bite size. You want it to be quick. Attention spans are super short, as you know. And then another aspect of Reels that you could take advantage of is storytelling. So again, I mentioned you have so many stories you can tell, obviously with discretion, but things that have made you better and better through each deal as a realtor. So you can show your face, you can not show your face, you can do a voiceover, but talk people through a story, an experience that they could relate to. Hopefully that helps give you kind of an idea of what actually makes a difference when you're creating reels, what things to focus on. And then a couple more tips. I mentioned that hook. So, the difference in using a very specific hook versus a very general hook. When you put that hook on your screen, you want to hit them with the hook early. So those first 0.5 seconds matter. You have less and less time. It used to be like 3 seconds you had to grab people's attention in a video. It's far less than that these days. So use a visual hook as well as that on-screen text hook. Visual hook could be starting with movement. It could be you hitting record and then setting the camera down in front of you. That is a visual hook. It's got some movement involved. If you're talking to the camera, start with a question or a bold statement. Get to the point of your video in that first sentence, and then you can go and introduce yourself. Don't ever start your videos with hi or hi guys or happy Tuesday. We've got to get straight to what we're saying, or we will lose people in those first seconds. And then use editing. Mostly we just edit within Instagram, honestly, but you can use CapCut. Instagram is coming out with a new editing app just for Reels that you'll be able to use called Edits to trim out your intro or any pauses. So if you record this at an earlier time and then you're like, oh, I say pause a lot, you can trim all those down because we want to keep it snappy. That helps with those hooks that I'm talking about. And then I mentioned this already, make sure you're using captions or text overlays to keep them engaged, because if they just scroll to a video with their sound off and there's nothing for them to read, it's just you talking, it's not going to hit very well. So make sure you're always putting something on screen. And then when you post a reel, make sure you add it to stories. That's like a freebie on stories to get active on stories all day. There are some people who just watch people's stories. They don't even scroll their feed. So consider that. You can add some engagement stickers is what they're called. Those things that qualify as that are like the poll sticker. So ask a question and give a couple of options for the answer. A question box where people can ask you anything, or you can ask a specific question and they can answer. It could be as simple as reaction stickers. There's like a little sticker bubble with an emoji that when people are watching, they can click on. But it's a very simple, low pressure thing that they can do. And Instagram registers that as, oh, people like this. So something as simple as that will boost your engagement, tell the algorithm people are interested. They'll show it to more people. 3-minute reels are now possible if you have that update. It used to be 90 seconds was the longest reel. I only advise people use that feature if you really have 3 minutes worth of content for people to stay engaged with. So if you're telling a story and it takes 3 minutes, that's great as long as it's engaging, snappy, not a lot of pauses. It's not just you rambling for 3 minutes. Just, I mean that lovingly. Okay, on to the next question. You guys had a lot of loaded questions for me. I appreciate that. So this question specifically asked, how do I create engaging content for all age demographics? That's really tricky because on my first instinct was you can't. You have to kind of tailor it to um, those different age groups that you're trying to reach. But you can create a single piece of content and tweak it for different platforms um, in an intentional way to reach different age demographics. So, again, if you're genuinely trying to reach everyone from like early 20s to past retirement age, first of all, you're going to be on several different platforms. You're going to be on TikTok for the younger generation, Instagram for kind of in the middle, Facebook for the older generation, LinkedIn, if that is your vibe. Those are sort of the main platforms I would think you'd focus on for putting your content out. What we do for clients is create a content concept and then we optimize it for each of those platforms. So whether that be caption tweaks or a reel versus a static post, younger audiences tend to engage with those short form real stories. I think more and more people in general are, because again, attention spans, we don't have a ton of time to sit there and scroll. And we do, we want it to just be all the information to be given to us right away, as quickly as possible. But I mean, it's still proven that older generations prefer to read those infographics, carousel posts where you can swipe through and read the story in a couple of graphics, or look at photos. So keep that in mind. You could create one concept and make it a reel for Instagram and make it a carousel graphic post for Facebook. You could test it and then swap them and do them on the opposite platforms. So, content wise, that's one thing to think about. Keep it clear. Don't focus as much on trends to kind of reach everyone. Because Gen Z might be paying more attention to what's trending now, but if you want to keep it general for all age demographics, then just get to the point and don't use those trendy hooks or those trendy TikTok dances, that type of thing. Just stick with simple language, simple design. The simpler, the better, usually, I think, when it comes to design and social media anyway. Don't use industry jargon. Always talk like you're talking to a normal person who you can't assume that everyone knows what you're talking about because they don't do this every day. It may seem basic to you, but it's not. Um, and then I always come back to just telling stories, relatable human stories. Focus on the why behind the move. That might be a little bit different depending on the age, but any empathetic person can relate to a story that you tell. So, focus on storytelling, but then also lean into educational content if you're trying to reach all ages. Anyone can learn from you. Again, you do this every day. You think it's common knowledge. I promise you it's not. There's people in an older generation that haven't moved in 20, 30 years. They don't know what's going on. They forget. And then there's the younger generation who hasn't bought a house yet at all. So that educational content spans across generations. Things are always changing. So you can always stuff for you to share in that realm. Again, with educational content, keep it bite-sized, keep it simple. If you have something that's like wordy, long-winded, three different pieces, make it a series. Do yourself a favor and get multiple pieces of content out of it to break it into those smaller pieces. So if you've taken any of my workshops, I always come back to this because gone are the days where people want to read a blog article about 12 home maintenance tips to do this spring. Oh my gosh, we are so busy and overwhelmed. We do not want to hear about 12 more things we need to add to our to-do list. So what is one thing that I can do today to help increase the value of my home? And it's easy and it's actionable and it's affordable, or I can pay someone to do it, or something like that, or give them your personal experience. What are you doing in your home this spring? What are you prioritizing versus the blog article of 12 things that you have to do? So hopefully that makes sense. There's no one size fits all formula, but you're building a strategy here. That's the point. And it's going to appeal to multiple age groups naturally if that is your target audience. Okay, what type of content performs best? So that is going to vary by platform, of course, but Reels and video content, I mean, I've been saying it for years at this point. It captures the most attention. It's not really going anywhere for the foreseeable future. I know a lot of people were holding out on creating Reels when it first started. Look, we'll wait and see kind of thing, but it's definitely not going anywhere. Instagram has made it their only form of video content. So there's more competition than ever in creating Reels, creating video. That just makes it a little tougher on us to stand out. But it is the best, most effective way to get the most attention and get the most engagement. So I'm sorry if that's not what you wanted to hear, because it doesn't exactly make our lives easy, but video content is where it's at. So getting comfortable talking to the camera, filming yourself, all really awkward things, I know, but the more comfortable you get with it, the better off you'll be. This just allows for more demonstrating of your personal brand and people getting to see more behind the scenes and who you are as a person, which I always say in real estate that matters. Okay, it's a very personal relationship. So how can you show that effectively that you're the right person for them? And part of that is showing your face. So I'm not saying every single day. I work with some personal brands who get sick and tired of seeing their face. I get it. I do too. So you can mix that up for sure, but people should not have to scroll very far in your feed to see you and get a feel for who you are as a person. They're obviously going to connect with faces more than just a daily infographic or listing graphic, new listing graphic. So got to show your face at some point. That just works. Instagram stories, I know I've mentioned this a couple times, but it is just a quick, easy way. If you are busy, we're all busy. If you're too busy to really dedicate any time to social media in general, just live in stories, honestly, because you're keeping your account fresh. You can post things on the go without hardly thinking about it. They expire in 24 hours. So it's not, you can have a typo and it doesn't matter. You posted today, it'll be gone tomorrow. I'll post a new one. And it's a really good engagement method because people can reply to those stories without it showing up for everyone to see versus when they leave a comment on your post, it's public. Anyone can see that reply, have their own thoughts on the matter. If they can reply into your DMs, that maybe they are starting to think about a move, but they're not ready for the world to know. It's just a little bit more low pressure way to connect with people. And there's all those interactive features. Like I said, you can put polls out there asking people, what's your ideal timeline to move? And you can get a feel for, okay, this person you see specifically who answered is looking in 3 to 6 months. They probably don't know it's time to start talking. Like, just an example. Those are just ways that you can connect with people on a more engaging level in stories. And I mentioned this already, and here's another example, though, to really drive it home. So those specific hooks. Now, hooks relate to all types of content, whether you are creating reels, static posts, you'll focus more on a hook being at the beginning of the caption. But any of those, having a strong hook for them to either see right away on screen or read first thing when they are reading your caption is vital to whether they're going to go any further with it or just scroll past, or whether it's going to leave them thinking about it later, or it looks like just another piece of content to them. So this is another example of getting specific versus just saying 3 first-time homebuyer tips. you ask them or you tell them, when I bought my very first home, this one thing completely changed the whole deal. You're giving them personal experience, you're giving them a little look into your life behind the scenes and why you're an expert to speak in this matter, essentially. You can take that example and kind of run with it with all kinds of different topics. So keep that in mind. And then you have to incorporate call to actions in all of your content as well. We are to the point where we're doing multiple call to actions because if we don't tell people what to do with our content, they don't know. They're not going to do it themselves. So if they get to the bottom of your caption, you just explain something and then that's it, it ends, they're going to just scroll past because you didn't tell them any different. So if you want them to um, comment something for you to send them their guide, you have to tell or send them like your seller's guide or your listing presentation, something like that. You have to tell them to take that action. Or if you want them to send you a direct message for more information, make sure you're telling them that. We typically ask people to reach out if they want XYZ or, and tell them how to reach out. Do we want them to direct message us? Do we want them to visit our website? Do we want them to call us or text us? And then a lot of times we'll do a secondary call to action, which involves something like save this so you know who to call when, or save this when you need to hear this message, or save this when you're working on your home maintenance list this spring, or share it with a friend who needs to hear this message. Share this with someone who's been talking about moving but hasn't done the work yet. Something like that. Whatever you want them to do, you have to literally spell it out for them. So that is your call to action. Okay. The best tools for scheduling social media posts. There are lots of options out there, and it's kind of to each their own on how your brain works. For us, Metricool is just kind of where we found our home. My team and I used Meta Business Suite at the beginning. It's still, if you just do Facebook and Instagram, it is free. It's, how do I put this nicely? It's Meta and their platforms. Like if you've ever tried to do a Facebook ad, for instance, it's not the most user-friendly platform. So it is free. If those are your two platforms that you use, it's all in one spot. Good for you. I still recommend it in that way. It's just like it's free and it's easy and it's right there. But Metricool is what we personally use for our agency and what I suggest personal brands do because as of now, or as of the last time I looked, Metricool has a free version as long as you are one single brand. So if you have multiple pages for some reason, like multiple business pages, that wouldn't work. But if you have one brand and multiple platforms, there is a free version that you can connect. Now, I don't know if the free version allows every single platform. I haven't looked into that lately. But for our paid version, and I will say we shopped because Metricool is the most affordable for what you get. So if you are going to upgrade to the premium, I've done the homework on that. It's worth it. Um, it has it has social platforms I've never even heard of. So pretty much anything that you'd want to connect to it, you could for scheduling. And it has awesome tools in addition to that that are easy to navigate. So they have analytics that are very simple to interpret. And there's that it goes by platform, it goes by different metric, and you can see them in graphs. You can compare any date range you can imagine. Like you can go back farther than you can even on your own personal Instagram. Um, you can, there's the calendar feature, obviously, to do the scheduling is extremely useful because the more it learns about your content and your audience, the more accurate it gets in helping you predict when to post. So this is another avenue that we use to determine for individual clients when their best posting time is. Because like I said, the more content we put into it, the more it learns. It will start giving us these highlighted times of day, times of week, recommending this is a hot time to post. So if you want to take the guesswork out of it, just start scheduling through Metricool and it will eventually tell you. So it's a general overview, but like I said, Metricool is easy to work with if you want to just sign up for the free version and click around in there. It is not, it was the least intimidating I could find to work with. So moving on to the next question. How do I increase engagement on my posts? So I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, but your engagement is not going to get better if your content isn't good. That's just the bottom line. People like to blame the algorithm for it. Um, there are things that happen like world events or holidays or season changes where we do see little dips in engagement and reach, but we adjust accordingly and we'll know if it's a temporary dip versus, okay, this stuff just is not resonating with people. What tweaks do we need to make to increase our engagement? It's always things that we can be doing. It's never really been the algorithm's fault if something doesn't hit. So create high quality content. That's going to be, I know no one wants that answer, but that is the answer. Our content has to be good to start. People have to want to hear this message or want to see this type of content. And that comes by knowing your audience. So if you need to sit down and write out or have a conversation with ChatGPT about it. Who the heck is my target audience on social media? Narrow that down first so that you can kind of figure out how to tailor your content to what that particular audience likes to see, what they find useful. And then you're just going to have to start posting, keep posting consistently so that you can go back and track your insights, track your analytics, understand their behavior, what they liked, what they scrolled right past, what has the most saves and shares. Those are our first two kind of standout indicators we look at because that's a little bit more of an action than just hitting like. And then, of course, commenting. If someone comments on something, we know if we get several comments on a post, we know that that resonated. Why did it? How can we recreate that? How can we use the same message in a different way? Or when is it time to just repost this all together? So, another thing that people don't love to hear because it's time consuming, but really works for increasing your engagement is engaging with your own audience. If you just post and then log out, there's not going to be much return on that. People aren't going to be really well, first of all, the algorithm doesn't really show it to as many people if you're not as active on the platform. They want you to put some time in as well. Um, and you want people to engage in those first few minutes, first hour or two after you post so that the algorithm continues to push it out to more people. So that's why I suggest if you can time it for around the time that you're posting your content to spend time on the app, leaving comments on other people's content, replying to people's stories, liking, sharing, comment. That's all engagement. And be specific with your comments. So ask a question, encourage discussion, always be positive, of course. Kind of keep the conversation going as opposed to just well done. It's a two-way street. So, act like you're interested in what your audience is up to, what they're posting about, and get your name out there by commenting on, bigger accounts that are maybe local that you could get some reach from. So local businesses are always a great place to start that I suggest. That could be restaurants, that could be local mom blogger groups, wherever your target audience might be lingering, wherever they're following like these larger accounts. If you're commenting on those people's posts, your target audience is going to see your name in those comments. and more likely to find your content that way. So I have an entire, some of you may have already downloaded it. I have an entire engagement guide that just gives away the back end of how my team does engagement for our clients. So there's it's on my website, or there's a QR code at the end if that's something that interests you. Or I think Grace has it, if I'm correct in thinking that because she sent it to some people for me. So if you want that, it's just like a 4 or 5 page guide to read through on specific instructions on, there's like a checklist, a daily checklist, a weekly checklist. That's one area I recommend. If even if you can just designate like 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week, whatever your total amount of time is, if you could be consistent with that, you will notice a difference on your own content getting out to more people. And then the tough one, I've kind of been hitting on this the whole time, but do a little self-assessment. Would other people engage? Like, would you engage with your post if you were someone else? So why should other people? It's usually just a tweak in your content that needs fixed. Okay. Seriously, all these questions were so hard for me to answer. Good questions, but some of them are a lot of different ways I could answer. So growing your follower count organically has become, that's the next question. How do I grow my followers organically? It has become more challenging than ever in the last several years. I'll just be honest. We used to be able to grow a new client account just astronomically in the first couple months. It's a lot more slow and steady wins the race these days. That is just across the board for various reasons. Like I said, there's a lot more competition out there. There's a lot more people accessing social media as a marketing platform because of all the reasons I gave you at the beginning. So that just means we have to stand out again. So same answer first as the last one, high quality content. Give people a reason to follow you, create good content. That outbound engagement, same thing. Read through that guide, take a little time spending it with your community, building those relationships. It's the best way on Instagram specifically to build visibility. You can do it on Facebook as your business page. You can now toggle over to show up commenting as your business page, but that is mostly for commenting on other business pages. It's a little harder to engage with personal accounts on that. So if you're wanting to interact with clients, if they're on Instagram, that's the best place to be doing that. And then keywords have become more relevant than ever. So SEO is very tied into social media. That is like the most general way I can describe it. But where we used to use hashtags in a way that people would search specific hashtags and then find us that way, we now use it as keywords so that people can find our content who are looking for those specific topics. So look at your hashtags, still use hashtags, view them more as keywords than they were before. I don't know if you've noticed, if you click on the caption, if you go into like a more detailed view of the caption on Instagram, AI is now giving a little description at the top that it pulled from what the caption slash hashtags, aka keywords, said. So, for example, if we posted that reel about here's one thing that changed the game when I bought my first house, we use some relevant hashtags related to first-time home buying, related to home buying in general, related to Indianapolis real estate, all those things we want it to know about us. Ideally, that description should say first-time home buyer tips, something like that. So if someone is on another post and clicks that first-time home buyer tips, then your post will come up in that search. Or if someone is just searching that in general, your content is more likely to come up. So we have been using that as a way to gauge to make sure that our captions are hitting the mark. We want to make sure that AI description in each post is what we want, is the message we're trying to get across. So you can kind of use that as a marker. Like, okay, yes, it picked up exactly what we're trying to say, or not so much, maybe need to tweak, add a little more specific keywords. So make sure that those hashtags, and then in your caption in general are relating to the specific piece of content as well as your overall industry, just to hit more people that way. And then collaborate with other brands, local businesses, other pages that have more of a following than you. That is a great way to get eyes on your page. So cross promotion, of course. I mean, if it's another local business, okay, like go to a coffee shop, film some B-roll, put together a short reel about them, and then add them as a collaborator. It's free marketing for them. It's also free marketing for you. If they add you as a collaborator or even share it to their stories, people, if they have 10, 20, 30,000 followers, those followers will see your name, see your account pop up in their stories or in the reel that you shared. So that could be a contractor that you love, a painting company that you love who's very active on social media, whatever that is for your business that makes sense. I say local because that's just we try to focus on that hyper local market in real estate. So start there, and see where it takes you. So collaboration is huge for getting new eyes, getting new followers. And then make sure you're connecting everything to your social media. So if you're really wanting to focus on growing social media, you need to have it on your website, on your email signature, any other marketing materials that are going out. Make sure you're letting people know that you're on social media and give them a reason to follow you. Ask them to follow you. Tell them why, what type of things are you offering there on your social media for them to follow along. So I believe we're going to do an entire workshop just on analytics because there's a lot you can dive into. It's not as scary as it sounds. It's really not. But this question was asked, how should I be, like, how? If I look at my analytics, where do I even start? Because there's a lot of numbers. Some of them mean more than others. So your top KPIs when you look at your analytics for social: engagement rate, reach, impressions, course, follower growth. Follower growth is honestly our least cared about category because they come and go. People will follow, unfollow. There are bots on social media that will follow and then get deleted by Instagram. So that number is going to fluctuate. Your reach is the number of people who view the content or number of different accounts that see your piece of content or your account as a whole. Impressions are then how many times, like, did they watch it again? How many views did you get? I think now Instagram even calls it views versus impressions, but that's just to give you an idea of what that is. And then engagement is how many actions were taken. So out of the number of people you reached, how many of those, let's say you're looking at a specific reel that had 2,500 views. Out of those 2,500 views, how many pieces of engagement did you get? How many people liked it, commented, shared, saved, took some sort of action on that reel? And that's how you find your engagement rate. You look at your total reach compared to your total number of engagements. And engagement rate honestly isn't usually crazy high. I think the number we aim for is 3%. 1 to 3% is average across all industries. It gets more specific depending on the industry, obviously. And then follower growth is the same. Follower growth is typically 1% month over month if you're doing well. So it's not like shooting for the stars. It's not a huge number you're looking at. That's just how much competition there really is out there. So 1%, let's go for that. If you're doing that, you're doing great. And then I've said this 100 times, so I won't hit on it too hard, but just analyzing what your audience is even up to and what they want to hear when they're online. And that is the best place to find that information is your analytics. It will literally order your content from best to worst. So if you go in your analytics, click on engagement, it'll show you your highest engaging piece of content. So just start there and recreate, repost, kind of dissect why maybe it did that well. Sometimes there's not an answer. Sometimes it just did, and that's okay. So You got to post. That's the first thing. You can't have any analytics unless you're posting. So you got to post, keep posting, and then observe what's happening, adjust strategically. Um, okay, I know I'm getting short on time. I'll try to breeze through these. This is just basically doing like an audit of your Instagram profiles. So the question was, how do I even know what edits to make to your social media profiles? These are general, very general across all platforms. It varies a little bit. I always tend to default back to Instagram because Instagram is the most quirky kind of in ways where specific tweaks help more than they do on the other platforms. But profile photo is the first, and across all platforms, make it a photo of yourself, not a logo. That should be pretty easy in real estate. But I suggest that for the majority of companies we work with, have a person in your profile photo so that people could connect with that. And make sure you're not leaving out any info, especially if you should have a business Instagram set up. So you're able to put location in that. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. I preach the importance of having your location in your profile because that's something people shouldn't have to search for, especially if you're in real estate. They should know right off the bat. You just have to put city and state, but they should know immediately if they're local to you or not. I Someone shared a coffee shop that looked amazing a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember if this person was, I think the person was local, but I wasn't sure if they were traveling or if it was a local coffee shop. So the coffee shop they tagged in their stories, I went to their profile and I spent probably 3 minutes on their Instagram and could not find where they were. That is absolutely unacceptable. This is the business they're losing out on just from people not knowing. And I probably spent way longer than the average person would looking. So do not miss out on business just because people can't find out immediately where you are. You have to make everything easy for them. So fill out your full bio, including your location, contact information. It has to be super simple for them to reach you. If you don't want to have your phone number on there, I get it. It's probably on your website anyway, but there are clickable buttons you can have on your profile so that they can email you in one click. Make sure your website links are current because Instagram, you can't put the links in the captions. So you have to make it as easy as possible. If someone comes to your profile, that they can click your link in just a second. And then keywords are actually also relevant in your bio. So again, this is specific to Instagram, but the name field is even searchable. So you want to have something, again, we shouldn't have to dig to find out that you're in real estate or that you're a realtor. So make sure that that's somewhere immediately seen, whether that's your handle, your username, or that first name field. Include your name, but also include city, state, realtor. The name fields on Instagram can be longer. So uh, it's just going to improve your searchability. All right, this one's a little general, but we've kind of talked about all of it. So I can just kind of hit the highlights here. The biggest pitfalls on social media, inconsistent posting. I've talked about that. It's better to just stay consistent with what you can handle rather than trying to do too much and get burnt out and quit. Posting and ghosting, you will not see the results you want if all you're doing is posting, never actually logging into the platforms. I mean, how can you learn that way what's working well on social media? Some of it is not just engagement, it's doing research to see what types of messages are resonating with people, what's working, what's not. So you have to put a little bit of time into it if you want to see your posts go anywhere. And then over promotion is another pitfall. You have to sell your services. We do that now more than ever because you just have to make it as clear as possible what you do and why people should call you, but it's social media. So it's meant to be social. People want to connect with humans, not so much businesses. So share a little bit of more down to earth type content behind the scenes, make that balance between valuable, entertaining, relatable content, and then sprinkle in, it's like the 80-20 rule. Should be 80% value, entertainment, relatable, 20%, hey, by the way, I can sell your house. So keep that in mind. And then not making adjustments. If something's not working and you don't try to figure out why, you're going to get frustrated and just throw in the towel. So analyze your performance continually. I don't even know how many more questions are on here, to be honest. I think we're almost to the end. I think this is the last one or two. And we kind of went over a lot of this. This was just like another similar question for creating video tips. And the big one I wanted you guys to take away from this is this simple list of things. If you feel like it would help you kind of get in the mode of, or in the routine of filming, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get all of these simple little things just on Amazon. Get a tripod, something to set your phone on. It's not necessary, but it helps. And then like a light. So when you can get the kind that just clips on your phone, or you can do a ring light that you can hook your phone up to. And so in darker houses and darker situations, you still have good lighting. So that's necessary for good video. A wireless microphone. I sent Grace a link for one that I have um, that I use. It's $15. So like I don't care if something happens to it, basically, is what I'm getting at. You don't have to buy the $100 one. The $15 works just fine. It clips into your iPhone. It's wireless, hook it up to you and go. Talk through home tours, that kind of thing. And then I love my gimbal. It's a stabilizer. If you're going to be doing B-roll, if you're going to be creating reels, it's pretty much necessary because we don't want to see the shaky video. I'm super shaky when I film video, just my hands. So you hook your phone up to it and then it pans very smoothly. So that's kind of like your starter pack to get those things to kind of get you moving with video. Start simple. You only need your iPhone. I'm not saying you need tons of fancy equipment. Clear audio is important. That's why I mentioned the microphone, good lighting. If it helps to write a short script, do it. I don't want it to sound overly scripted because that will hurt you more than it'll help. Just get in the point is just keep doing it. Just keep practicing. The more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. I've already talked a lot about those hooks. Never use an intro. Don't start your video with hi. We're already scrolling past. And then just be yourself. Okay, that was the last question. I was panicking there for a minute. So, okay, if you have, I don't know if there were more questions. I have time. I just want to be respectful of everyone else's time. So, Grace, thank you. If you would like that engagement guide, email Grace. She still has a copy of it for me. Bless you. And then if you want to ask any other questions, I'll hang out for like a couple more minutes to see if any come in. You can also, this little QR code will take you to, this is terrible. I made it so long ago. It either takes you to the engagement guide or it takes you to my website where you can find the engagement guide. So either way you prefer to get it works for me. And thank you for being here this morning. We don't have our May topic finalized yet, but we'll be sending that out pretty soon. So it should be the second Wednesday in May, so it'll come up a little bit sooner than normal. But yeah, we'll get that info out to you. Just mark your calendars for that date in May. And if you don't have any questions, feel free to hop off at any time. I'm just going to stick around for a couple minutes in case there's any to answer. So thank you.